Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Nebuchadnezzar's Fiery Furnace, written by, well, opinions vary. Some people think it's by Joshua Sylvester, or it's by someone who really liked Joshua Sylvester. But there's no absolute firm. So someone who's edited the play ascribed it to Sylvester, but someone who edited the rest of Sylvester did not ascribe it to him. So there is a dissonance of opinion, apparently. But yeah, we have King Nebuchadnezzar, and we have some other interlocutors. We're not going to stop and start very often on this text, which similarly has quite a wide dating range depending on who you think wrote it. It's somewhere between 1620-ish and 1650-ish. So, you know, it's only a 30-odd year gap. Yeah, we don't really know. We don't know a lot about this. And yeah, we're only going to stop and start occasionally and see what we're getting out of it. So reading today, Nebuchadnezzar is...
Hello, I'm Greg and I'm frying tonight.
Reading the opening prayer, governors, councillors, and Caldeans is...
All the plural people. Actually, no, just a few of the plural people. Aliki, Chapple.
Yes, we have many representatives of groups. We have a herald, we have judges, we have rulers, and we have Meshach.
That's me, Alan, in Suffolk.
And reading princes, treasurers, people, and Abednego is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm in the northwestern United States.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading what few stage directions there are, but we'll also read in some captains, sheriffs, and Shadrach. So, without further ado, we dive into the text. There is a prayer, Aliki.
My spirit, O Lord, make free of fleshly lets, that I may climb thy sacred cabinets with wings of faith, or well to understand, to do this work which I now take in hand. Now let thy motions like a river swell, with gurgling streams of graces that excel within my heart, that in sweet verses rare thy might in mercy I may well declare, how thine own gainst all that do conspire can safely keep even in a burning fire.
And we can infer the entrance of the king to the play.
We gods on earth should climb supernal stories. We should achieve great things to grace our glories. Behind us we should leave some clear character that we have lived on this earth's theatre, that after death our names in all men's eyes may be like stars that brandish in the skies. The echo of our name with gentle gales will make the hills to sound with babbling vales. If that great things we do, we fame will find. Men's mouths like cornets with their curled wind will make record of all the worthy things which are performed by great and mighty kings. We in our work resemble should a tree in branches that bear most fruitfully. To do great things we should not be amazed. Why should our names be either rent or raised? Some pass their time in their most merry drinking, and some are witless in their silly thinking. Some with great blood their courage strive to seal, but in a trice they topsy-turvy wheel. Such glorious shows cannot have long abode, when they fall down most live a wretched clod. But greater things now come into my mind, whereby I may some greater glory find among my Caldeans, who are learned and wise, have for mine honour given me this advice, that nothing can the glory of my name more high extol and spread abroad my fame than that of gold I should in continent set up an image for a monument. Now with all haste that image I ordain to be set up within fair Jurus's plain, which in the provinces of Babylon, like all make haste and end this work anon. I highly mind this image for to raise, and make it glorious, that on it may gaze the wisest eyes that are in all the land, and bow their knees so soon as I command. The height thereof shall cubits be 60, with 6 in breadth, and neither less nor more. Now must a herald be most quickly sent to charge the princes that incontinent with governors, captains, and treasurers, and judges, sheriffs, and the councillors, with all the rulers even of each province, and them ordain to come unto their prince most willingly with great submission, that they may see the dedication of this mine image, a most stately thing, a glorious work that well beseems a king. Oh, such a one of those, the others. How such a one of these the standers by go warn the princes. Others also cry that they resort to see this work of ours onto this plain enamelled with all with flowers. When stately stands this image made of gold, slates my precepts, none dare be so bold.
And the King's Herald conveneth the princes for the local planning meeting. I may have added to that. Herald, take it away.
I am now sent with great authority to publish that King, his Majesty, hath with great cost set in duress plain and glorious image, which he doth ordain to be respected both by great and small. He hath me sent you for this end to call. It is his will, for to make a muster of all his peers, for to give grace and lustre unto his image for memorial, which must be honoured both by great and small. This I you tell, under the highest pain. Lust not in sloth, king's precepts not disdain. In swarthy moors the image doth not stand, nor yet on hills, but in fair Durus land.
Most king in thousand vanities delight, some for to hunt, some for to whore or fight, by needless wars, some off lop legs and arms, and will not but by force lay down their arms. So often they who should have saved the nation do make of all a fearful desolation. Some pass their time in riot drunkenness, some with their tribute subjects poor oppress, and hoard their gold, and eke their silver both, which subject are to rust, as clothes to moth. Some waste their times in thousand vanities, like children chasing gaudy butterflies. But ye, sir, always have your might and power, are for your men's defense a strongest tower. Yet do in mercy fortify the weak. Ye do in mercy fortify the weak. In justice ye, men stubborn, still do seek. Ye guide all well, most equal unto all. Oppressors now down let their weapons fall, who by distressing men with miseries to spring of tears oft turn many eyes. And what can feed the eye or fill the hand, if of the gods men nothing understand? We have well heard how ye in Durus plain to set up an image did ordain, the like whereof in Babylon is none, and that ever heard by any prince is done.
When kings are foolish, raging in their ire, they do their people calcine as with fire. They will be high, and they will all command, but for well-doing in no stead they stand. They men destroy with fearful tempests stern. They wound their worthies, and cannot discern the man that truly is the worthy subject, who is most wise of wrath they make the object. They trouble all, not liking counsel good, till all their subjects be in knees to blood. But ye, sir, by your wisdom that is clear, do better rule, and sift all things more near. Ye love the gods, for them ye spare not gold, as in this image all men may behold. By this ye shall among men get a name. No work at all could more increase your fame.
The captain's joy to see the squadrons reel with bloody sword, and fro to wheel. It is our play to see men fierce renew the charge, and so with bloody sword pursue their foes afresh, and in a wrath extreme them to invade, and round about behem. But yet at last we must our gods draw near, that they may free us all of all faults and fear. We cannot rest secure and confident, except the gods be served in our tent. What are the strongest, but like potter's crust? How soon are they all crushed and turned to dust? What have we win when we in grave are dead? Though we have spoiled and filled the world with dread, when all our days we lived have like fools, we must at last e'en tumble down our tools. Our spears and swords must all at last give place to those who by their wisdom do make peace. O happy king, who spare men's blood and bones with blunted sword, who sit on mercy's thrones. When we were young, we smiled with ha! We smelled the battle and did cry, sa! We wax it old, we think it now a grace that far from trumpets we may live in peace. But sir, O sir, but ye a happy course intend, this golden image for to recommend unto your subjects, that they less and more in Durus plain the same may all adore.
And princes who sit in the highest place, judges wise, are void of wit and grace. Then judges blush and covered are with shame, their tears outgush, they hear nothing but blame. With grief they see them on their fiery steeds, gambling high with tottering crowns on heads, rushing in dangers with a gloomy front, as near to get as for to give affront. But prudent ye take up a calmer course, your actions wise, a matter for discourse. To wisest mouths your progress is far softer, example good to all that shall come after. Your image rich doth unto us declare, that for your grandeur all the gods will care.
Oh, muted.
When kings in haste do make a needless war, the treasurers do find that they do mar their proper profit, and their country cross. In civil wars, the kings get aye the loss. His rents are spent that should uphold the crown, his men are slain, and the fields trod down. All run with blood, the people all aghast, perplexed are, all racket is at last. Here all's in fire, and there a stout forlorn, the poor man stabs and strips the noble born. Such bloody wars all treasurers do grieve. If war persists, they all may take their leave. But ye, sir, far from such a furious way, in sign of peace, an image rear the day, a worthy work. We doubt not, but for this, the gods above will you most richly bless.
Unto all kings we owe firm fealty, and kings should love men for their loyalty, whoever he be that given is unto wiles, himself the first most shamefully beguiles. Men should be straight and upright in their ways, if they desire to see most pleasant days. If kings would have their good things to abide, they must not armed be with paws of pride. Kings should not be like horse or ox forlorn, who strike with hooves and also push with horn. Kings fathers are, and should themselves constrain to bear some wrongs, and for to ease of pain their subjects poor, and not as excrement to cast them oft, as though by such intent they could them win. This surely shall befall, such doings at a gasp shall vanish all, then shall ensue great blood and misery, and good things shall as a shame past, by which not returns. So in this case dependent, some shall be plaintiff, others some defendant, then all at last goes in a hurly-burly, all upside down is turned topsy-turvy. But ye, sir, far from such a furious way, in sign of peace, an image rear the day, a worthy work. We doubt not, but for this, the gods above will you most richly bless.
When gods are wroth, they make the rocks to shrink. They make the mountains mouldering down to sink, or leap like calves. That the errors of men's life they boldly scourge, e'en with their terrors rife. They thrust men's feet into the stocks most strait. Their judgments still on vilest wretches wait. Men shall go mock them as a man another, and think that they such faults can closely cover. But ye, sir, far from such a furious way, for their service an image rear the day, a worthy work, we doubt not, but for this the gods above will you most richly bless.
And kings are proud and will not counsel hear, The land with blood is filled, and sallow fear. In time of peace, the wardrobe stuffed still, with sumptuous silks and all the bravery full. The gold ground velvets worthy of a prince do plenteously abound in each province. As we can tell, the garners filled with grain, the herds and flocks do skip upon the plain. But when by war men leave their homely coats, and men do run to cut each other's throats, for these who hear birds with warbling repetitions, can music then hear bloody expeditions, resounding by the drumming crowd, and trumpets also with their alarum loud. Then soldiers fierce through all the province go, and all therein they fill with wrack and woe. None dare say ill done, for to tell his want, each man devours e'en like a cormorant. All goes to wrack. The land is filled with fears, with cries and noise, with troubles and with tears. Whether laws, men given unto their lust, do ravish maids, and cities turn to dust. Each man doth run his fellow to devour. The country all is filled with blood and gore. But ye, sir, far from such a furious way, in sign of peace, an image rare this day have here set up. We doubt not but for this, the gods above will you most richly bless.
But I'm not going to let the king step in yet. I think we'll just briefly pause to recapitulate. I think it's fair to say that King Nebuchadnezzar is a really great guy, and if he wants to have a massive statue built of himself in gold, I think everyone else seems perfectly happy with this. I mean,
on board with
I know a lot of people in the chat have been suggesting that maybe they're just sucking up to the king. But honestly, he might be great. He might be the best ruler they've ever had. And why not? And why not? I mean, it's always better when the people spontaneously want to build statues to you rather than you commission them yourselves. But hey, I mean, he seems a great guy. Am I missing anything here?
And also gods are really famous for loving it when humans build god-sized statues to themselves and go, I am the awesomest, more awesome than any god.
Oh, awesome.
That's never gone badly, ever.
Never.
Lynn.
Never. Yeah, I don't know. I can't help reading their subtext as being like, yeah, well, you could be spending your time and money on worse things like war and stuff, so go ahead. Then at least it keeps him occupied. I'm thinking of modern rough equivalents of people in positions of corporate power. The concept of managing up. That you've got this CEO or somebody, and he's really just useless, and there's whole teams of people that basically do damage control. Try to keep him out of the actual operations of the company. That's what Nebuchadnezzar reminds me of. I think that's just my modern take. But this is by now a pretty thoroughly Protestant country in which this text was generated. So image making is really a bad thing. It's quite unchristian. So yeah,
I was thinking the stripping. I know it's a long time before this. If this was written, when we don't think it was written, but the stripping of the images and so on. And yeah, I love Nebuchadnezzar. Not an egotist in any way, shape, or form.
So nice.
He likes to. He knows how big he wants his monument.
Yes, and the thing is, iconicalism, comes in waves as well. There are more waves to come. Aliki.
Yeah, and also to be fair, Judaism isn't all that keen on the making of golden idols either. So the Protestants have a point.
Yeah.
And I mean, and if we think to the 20th century, I mean, almost everyone who's built massive statues of themselves in countries around the world have always turned out to be lovely people. It just seems to be a pretty good indicator that this guy is probably not going down a good path. Greg.
I find the format of this quite interesting. We're used to this sort of, the king speaks, then a load of people speak, and then we're about to hear from Nebuchadnezzar again. And I just find that to me, it feels like it's going back to an earlier form.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
It feels very late for this kind of form. But it's quite formulaic, and I'd love to know how it was first performed. Is that because of the nature of where it was performed, or who it was performed by? I can see this as an entertainment in a large house, with servants kind of taking on roles, and it being a thinly veiled attack on maybe the lord of the manor. But yeah, no, really interesting form too.
Because it's sort of nodding back to sort of medieval
religious drama.
Religious drama. Though the verse form is different. But that schematic way of one speaker, one speaker, one speaker. But that also sort of runs through, things like civic pageantry and other forms that do sort of still exist on the periphery, and maybe it's riffing on that as well. It's a really interesting question. The dramaturgy will shake up a little later on, and no spoilers there. It's not going to be just the king says something and then everybody else responds in order, though there's a fair amount of that coming up. But there will be a bit more, shall we say, dialogue rather than series of speeches further down the line. Lynn?
Yeah, I think the guess that it might have been for like a kind of chamber performance in a great household is not a bad guess, but I can't help thinking that this was also generated during the reign of one of the least successful monarchs in English history. My understanding of Charles I is that he was so high-handed and basically didn't understand the concept of a loyal opposition. And he was bad at his job because he really couldn't see any point of view but his own. Just a complete coincidence that this text was generated during his reign.
Well, or very, very near it, depending on how you want to date it. But yes, it's pretty much landing.
He might
or
for
that matter, after he's had his head chopped off. So, it's still, technically this might fall outside of our period. It's
unlucky Chuck, as a friend of mine calls him. Hard luck, Chuck.
We need to crack on because we've got more text than we normally do here for a session. King Nebuchadnezzar responds to all this wonderful, spontaneous outpouring of agreement.
Religion makes men meek, and also mild, who are like beasts in flaky fence most wild, to brood both rapt revenge and cruelty, as by experience you may daily see. God on a hill with thorny thrummed top spake unto Moses, who could clamber up these places steep. But I do well ordain my golden image on a pleasant plain for easy access. There no winds do yield great storms while they go whisking over the field. I too great pains of no man here do crave. Religion should not make man a slave. I heard by Daniel, when their God did glance with eyes of fire, that Moses fell in trance, when so appeared with stern and furious look, heek their bones with shivering chillness strook. Then such a blustering tempest down did fall that Moses trembled, said, I tremble, but this our image stands upon a plain, no clamberings here. No climbings here, no clambering up with pain to trouble men, except men, whilst go idle, by holy days they sure can brook no bridle. Men must refreshed with music be and plays, and now and then keep some festival days, and that they may with greater zeal adore, some image must be settled them before. This I have done, an image not of mud I have set up, but of metal good, with great expense and cost as all may see. Kings in such things should not base niggards be.
An image that is richly high embossed of burnished gold and of exceeding cost. It is a work for such a mighty prince as may be seen by us from each province. Most princes are in a most ingrateful torrent upon their pleasures, lash a swelling current, not thanking gods who have with great renown upon their heads set a most glorious crown. You care for gods makes your contempt all gain. Your fame the blows and burnt may well sustain of cursed tongues. No man can shake the head at all your works, which godly are indeed. Gold garlands ye do twist while some allow, but willow wreaths for gods to deck their brow. But your image stately is to see, in all the earth the like thereof not be.
Men who below would conquer a great name, build castles fair to spread abroad their fame, but at the last their walls' foundation shrinks. The lime it crumbles from the yawning chinks, the ceiling upward, tottering all doth quiver, and time at last the buildings makes to shiver. As for this image, it shall yawn away that glory may in an immortal day come and exalt Nebuchadnezzar's name, all glorious made with garlands of great fame.
When we were young, our pleasure is in wars, with sword in hand to brandish and make scars. We up and down to kill and spoil do reel. Our caps are iron and our satin steel. If we with lances can in fury tilt, we justle and not care what blood be spilt. When we are mounted with a crispy crest to rush in battle, we then think it best. This men of courage do for to obey their princes who think battles but a play. Too many kings for to obtain their will do little care what blood their subjects spill. What care such though? E'en in a twinkling trice, in equal halves each other's heads do slice. The battle found, they free of danger like, they laugh to hear men's swords men's heads down strike. Men at their will lie night and day in arms, and at recounters want both legs and arms. Some by their pride, and some by want of wit, put all their kingdoms in a bloody fit. Some wilful are, and fill their land with fears, not caring, though the earth still swim with tears. But ye, your time on better purpose spend. Ye spare men's lives, and which we must commend. Ye fear the gods to serve them, ye delight. In doing so, ye always hit the white.
Kings are foolish, all is full of fears. Then fields with blood, and cheeks do swim with tears. Then judgment seats lie empty by such a boast, as summer flowers ahead in winter frost. These who were rich now barefoot hop about, even seeking bread with tears still gushing out. While they behold these who their lands do sack, of cares the clusters lie upon their back, and houses painted with clear glistering studs are set on fire and spoiled of all their goods, whereas before their fields great store of grain did yield, they beg, for nothing doth remain. The dollars which with such daily do renew, do dye men's faces of a sable hue. But ye hit wisely, far from such a rage, by your great skill ye angry surges swage. Cunning steers man, ye can know the tide, and make good use, so that ye well can guide your subjects, and from wrath yourself refrain, till that the welkin cloudy clear again, and scents grow calm, and binds lay down their boast. More wisdom doth than any armed host, and which is more to be extolled by all, ye for the gods have a memorial, set up of gold, of height, Cupid's threescore, the breadth whereof is 5, and all once more. With little din in things ye abound, the fullest vessels have the lesser sound.
Muted treasurers again.
Doing that, sorry. Some princes are like pikes, which quickly scour the creeks of rivers, and therein devour the smaller fishes, and the feeble fry try their wills a law. They, raging by and by, beat with their billows 'gainst them that withstand the least of things they proudly do command. They subjects load with tribute, toll, and tax, and subsidies which break their people's backs. And after that they spend in needless wars their treasures all, and fill the land with jars. Thus by their folly they all at the last what gathered was most lavishly do waste. But ye your gold for gods do well employ, while they have goods in vanity destroy. That which they have is blasted with a curse. Their treasurers all have still an empty purse. Ye purchase peace, The spider's busy task is woven within the soldier's plumed casque. No need of arms, all men now glad and blithe, spear into prune hook, and sword into scythe. Well turn it have. Now is your chiefest care for gods above to dress this image rare.
When kings are wise, their councillors have joy, most glad they are such jewels to enjoy. It makes their hearts to dance and mouths to sing like nightingales in a most pleasant spring. Upon a hawthorn in the morning dew, where warbling they their knots do still renew. But oh, when princes make their will a law, not seeking love, if subjects stand in awe, such rage with havoc and with horror too, if they command, care not what they do. Legs to lop off to them is but a play, and alls to hack and hew men's arms away. They fill the land with cripples, in a word. They care not for the bloody raging sword, because they wilful counsel will not take. They at the last bring all their land to rack. But ye, sir, wisely do your time bestow to honour gods, which we do well allow. Ye still go forward, and recoil not back your sword. Ye bathe not in a gory track of subjects' blood, to make more tears fall down than there be motes that reel within the sun.
A wicked prince with burdens heavy loads his subjects still, he them as croaking toads abhors, not caring though the sword do sweep their life away, they lying in a heap. Such in their rage care not what blood they spill, if they at last can get of all their will. They still like falcons aim most furiously with sudden souse to show their tyranny. But ye love peace, and do abhor to kill. Ye rather would your balm in wounds distill. Your way is not in bloody red careers of tyrants who still cry for swords and spears, until their subjects murdered be at last, and fertile lands by wares be all laid waste. Such wickedness ye always do disdain, the marks thereof stand up in Jurors' plain.
Princes profane shall not their works achieve, when judgments come, who shall them then reprieve? Though they a breastplate of the strongest steel, they shall not fail of gods the wrath to feel. When people still by wars are made to cry, doubtless the gods will hear them by and by, and let them know, though safe they stand aloof, for wounds their crowns be not at peril proof. Though they should flee with wings, yet pause they must, and at the last return with shame to dust. These cruel men, whatever they now do dream, shall spew at last that bloody purple stream of slaughtered children, which for sacrifice they murdered have by their deceitful guise. When wicked princes raging act their part, we, rulers of provinces, feel the smart. But ye your gold give for the god's service. Ye care for orgies and for sacrifice, to honour them who sure your honour shall, and at the last pay use and principal.
I see, my peers, I have your approbation, that of this image be a dedication. Your words declare your mind, and which is more, I see you all now standing it before with great respect. You know all well this thing, that subjects must in all obey their king. King's precepts all on fiery wings are borne, like thundering bullets, none but men forlorn dare lift the crest and care, but say wherefore. Our will's a law. We will do it therefore. No other reason we are bound to give. Let them obey who have desire to live, for we are great lords both of life and death, and we command each man and all he hath. These who are wise obey us by and by. Mad fools they are who dare our laws defy. The people, peers, in this must sympathize, to stoop to kings who can both patronize or punish men, that all may stand in awe. Kings will must stand to subjects for a law. Now it is time that we a herald send, that all my land be warned from end to end, that when they shall hear sounding pleasantly the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, the dulcimer and music of all kind, that then they all with humbleness of mind adore the image, that most stately thing set up by me of Babel, great the king, and who refuseth that which I require shall sure be cast into a furnace fire. Who obey, they shall get my protection. Thus I'll reward my subjects' low subjection.
Kings sit on thrones and handle scepters bright. They armed are with majesty and might. What they command, who dare reply wherefore? Their will may serve for reason, less or more. Your majesty, by your continual sessions, may all command and punish all transgressions. What ye command is not for avarice, to whine by bribes or rest by ill device. Your thoughts, such thoughts, do all now far surmount. Ye do not as your fathers all were wont. Ye see no gain but to respect the gods. Who shrinks at this deserveth sharpest rods. Most justly may all such with thongs most fast be bound and in a fiery furnace cast.
Your Majesty hath here a pleasant plain where ye your subjects orderly ordain. Flowers with their colours here rejoice the eye, and in the nose they smell most fragrantly. Trees with their twigs do one another tangle on branches fair. The dainty fruits do dangle, yet with sweet music cause rejoice the ear, while men in Dara dulcimers do hear with cornet, harp, suckbut, and psaltery, which joined in sound make heavenly melody. Good princes' precepts go with gentle gushing like silver streams through pleasant pipes still rushing with curled waves that water all the land. Who dare refuse what such men do command? Who dare condemn deserves the rigor rather of judges than the mercies of a father. Most justly may all such with thongs most fast be bound and in a fiery furnace cast.
Men of our coat of drums do always dream, and spears and swords to make men's blood to sheam. Aha! Our horse laugh when of battle fell. They hear the noise and also feel the smell. Like eagles frankly soaring near the sky, they go to strokes with courage by and by. So much more men in wrath like angry bees do soon resolve to fight in flood to knees. While we such thoughts do thus brood in our heart, we do thereby ourselves at least subvert. For we, the gods, forget most carelessly, while we in battles fight thus cruelly, or do ambush in any bushy thorn, or lie in wait in caves or field of corn to trap men's lives. For this we in and out do frisk in countries which lie round about. In glorious shows ourselves we nimbly shroud, and gaze upon our plums like peacocks proud. We roar, we rage like boars and bears with paws. We spoil the poor and grip with griffins' claws. We what we can get with whip and rope and rack. We in a rage thus of all shipwreck make. To do mischief we wickedly combine. We spiders like to weave such woeful twine. Slaves to our house, not having any might our lust to bridle or them rage aright. But oh, of you we better things may learn, to serve the gods. Ye taught us at your stern, ye teach us by your image made of gold to honour gods, as all may now behold. Who gainst your purpose show themselves as foes, let them be thrilled with 10,000 throes. Most justly may all such with thongs most cast be bound and in a fiery furnace cast.
Of our coat on benches high do sit. It is our part to tell what we think fit. We judges are for to give our decrees against men given to falsehood and to lies, against fighters and vile drunkards who turn in the strongest drink, which button all their skin, and him who still with filthy purpose makes his mouth loathsome like most filthy jakes. But men will scorn at all the judges' rods, except they be trained up to know the gods. This ye will do, yet ye furnish richly gold, now for this image as we here behold. Oh, happy ye, Yea, happy thrice therefore, augur envy, your name forevermore shall famous be. Princes in courts delights oft spend their times with journeys, tilts, and fights, which vanish shall like mist before the wind. No fruit shall they of all such pleasures find. Such at their best are like the ragged bramble, which burns their people, or their skins to scramble. But your good works, most glorious, still abide, like spangles of the tresses of a bride, which in the sunbeams gloriously do glance, and shaken with a little gale do dance. If any will your image not adore, the fiery furnace him shall soon devour.
The gods have given rich treasures unto kings, with honors great and many other things. When kings again the gods most thankfully respect, it is indeed their honor high. But when they raise their tops unto the sky, and from the gods turn clean away their eye, and play the tyrant, then all utterly is rent and razed. No place for equity is to be found. The treasures go to naught, and they at last find dear their pleasures bought. Eclipsed they of all their majesty, with broken scepters on the ground do lie. But ye your gold for gods do well employ, the fruits thereof shall comfort be and joy. Your stately image, which all men admire, must by all men be worshipped with fear. If any will your image not adore, the fiery furnace shall him soon devour.
Where kings rule well, oh, there from coast to coast, the land it is as rings with pearls embossed. The field abroad all shines with brightest beams, the mountains high do spew clear silver streams, the valleys all are full of wine and corn, great policy doth all the land adorn. Men live at home in peace, their crooked age snows not their locks in tedious pilgrimage, but when the princes look both stern and strange, and cruelly do give themselves to range and spoil the poor, neglecting justice beam, with countenance filled with a pride extreme, that with great grief the very earth doth groan, the houses here and there are lost alone. Men scorn the gods, and also all that's said by councillors, who for such things are sad. Then topsy-turvy all is turned at last, for mirth is mourning, and for feasts a fast. Then pride and lies do banish faith and zeal. Gods depart, and peace and grace from commonweal doth take its leave. All that peace doth plant, ye a prince of virtue know the price ye good men raise, and raise men given to vice. Your mind is set gods to adorn aright with gold. Ye shine like to a lantern bright set on a pharos, which by beams most bright from shipwreck saves those who do sail by night. What others spend in civet, musk, and amber, things of great price for to perfume their chamber. What others spend in drunkenness extreme, paddling like frogs in Bacchus' purple stream. What others spend when drums they cause to beat for battles where men sweat with sweating heat, that ye for gods have set on Durus plain, a golden image, glorious to remain. Doubtless the gods with great fertility will garden well your liberality. If any will your image not adore, the fiery furnace shall him soon devour.
The princes lewd make drink their darts with blood, their sword they glut with slaughter. All the brood of wicked race break forth, and make a song of doleful notes which sound the land along. The soldiers thus dispersed far from home, o'er all the fields with cruelty do roam. The pruning hooks are turned into spears, and scythes to sword. The land is filled with fears, the depths with pirates, and the downs with thieves are filled, so one mischief another weaves. But ye, contemning all such rage so rare, have all the gods set up an image fair. Your subjects wrapped in soft beds do sleep, while others watches in cold trenches keep. While others raging pierce the flesh and skin with lances sharp bristling like porcupine. While others make with swords in shivers fly both casques and skulls. Ye guide all quietly, and of your subjects ye require no more, but that most humbly they the gods adore. But who you despise, let them at the last, bound hand and foot, within a furnace cast.
Who with contempt despite the God of heaven, their payment shall in their own coin be given. Their subjects shall not fail them to despise. All men at last shall see how goes the guise. The gods shall judgment send with noiseless foot, them to destroy and cut them, plant and root. Against such hurts they have no cunning charms, when gods do thunder with imperious arms, which more for all the force of men bring down their lofty looks and sceptre break and crown, to cast them all into the mire or mud. Such judgments sleep not, but most quickly scud upon the wings of wrath, while in the pomps of princes good fortune blows with troops of blessings running in a heap, with such a course that they on other leap. To bless them all here with refreshing balms, and through with laurels and victorious palms, and here again to glad them all their days with sweetest songs of lullabies and lays, that like dear babes in cradles laid to sleep, sweet rest anon all through their veins may creep. So ye do well who gives this worthy pledge of your good will to gods, a worthy gauge of finest gold set up in durest field, that all unto it worship due may yield. If any will your image not adore, the fiery furnace shall him soon devour.
Good subjects, when they see their prince effect a purpose good, they willingly effect what he desires. It is a king's chief treasure to have still subjects for to do his pleasure. What I do threat or promise I not slip, it is to observe from truth kings should not trip. To break his word it ill beseems a king, who as so speak should still do everything. Princes who are disloyal and unjust, with wrath their subjects arm with distrust. Princes who own their ways grave and sage, can easily calm a people's barking rage. The kings who fiery speak words and boast most big do make their sceptres like a maple twig, except they join with them the authority of noble peers, their follies men see. Follies men will see, so I, intending for to make an image, would do nothing but by your counsel sage. Now seeing ye, who are the peers, consent, let us an herald send incontinent, to publish to all people, nations all, who we command, even whether great or small, that when they hear flute, sackbut, psaltery, harp, dulcimer, they in humility fall down and worship to this image yield, which I set up have in fair Durus's field. Whoso doth fail to bow upon his face, the same hour shall be burnt with great disgrace. If men praise kings, laws cannot abide, the fiery furnace shall their doubts decide.
Your majesty in this your wise desire do nothing but great equity require. We shall a herald find without delay, who quickly shall in all things you obey.
And we'll pause while they go and find a herald. So yeah, it's really. I mean, we've been mentioning in the chat how this is sort of never-ending stream of stuff. There is a slow progression here. It's a very slow progression. I mean, we could get here a lot quicker. But, you know, King Nebuchadnezzar makes a perfectly valid point. He would like to build a statue to himself. Everyone says this is a great idea. And then he says, well, it would be quite nice if everyone sort of bowed down to it. And anyone who doesn't bow down to the image, that we'll put them in a fiery furnace. And everyone goes, hey, that's a great idea. Yeah, we'll burn it. Anyone who doesn't agree with you. That's perfectly reasonable. And I'm starting to think of some of these displays are by again, we're moving down the dictator end of the governance spectrum, where you have these interminable meetings where people are all sat around and it looks like it's a discussion. It's not a discussion. They're all just performing the performative "you are great, oh great leader" stuff. It's excessive. It goes on forever. There are some interesting things in there, but yeah, there is no conflict yet. This is the thing. Everybody's agreeing with the king, so there's nothing to bounce against yet. You don't always have to have conflict in drama, but it kind of helps. I'll go to Alan, then Lynn, then Aliki.
Yeah, I must admit, whoever wrote this was a torturer, because there's so many tongue twisters in the blasted thing. I almost wonder whether this was written as a school piece to try and encourage kids to follow elocution.
I found my bits bounced along perfectly well. I mean, occasionally tripped over things. Sometimes it was a bit comic in some of its phrasings. I did find it's the repetitions that are getting me. I mean, it's not just that they're saying basically the same speech every time, but it's then you have explicit repetitions of things like if any your will your image not adore, the fiery furnace shall him soon devour. We have that several times, but not every time, and it's strange that it's not. If we're going down a sort of liturgy of speaking in that way, then you'd think it'd be more schematic, but it's sort of like it's a bit schematic and then it isn't, which is odd. Lynn, then Aliki, then I'll go back to Alan.
Do you want to let Alan?
I'll go back to Alan.
Yeah, I mean, my thought on that is that this would be an absolute bugger to do with a Q script, given the number of speeches that end with that couplet.
Oh yeah, but so far it's a doddle to do, because you always speak after the previous person on the list. It's so schematic that you don't need to know what the cue is. You just wait. If you're the councillor, you always follow the treasurer, so you just wait for him to stop talking. So as cue wise, it's easy. And it's strange how the speeches are different lengths as well. The captains seem to say significantly more than the treasurers each time, and in certain things. Some people have more lines. Anyway, Lynn, then Aliki.
There's something a little eerie about this for me, being sort of an autodidact in the history of this period, because the one thing that's just sort of disturbing about it is everyone else in the room besides Nebuchadnezzar, all of his yes men, are saying, "Oh, this will be an honor to the gods if we worship a golden statue of you." Like, what? How is that respecting the gods to worship? I'm not persuaded. But
you only need to persuade him. You don't have to persuade the audience.
Yeah. Worshiping idols is honoring the gods, which is I think this audience would find that manifestly false. Given the religious conflicts of this period, I can't help but think that's what that's referencing. And I know it's been quite a while since the Tudor dynasty, but people in a fiery furnace, I can't help thinking of Bloody Mary and the fires of Smithfield.
Other fires are available. Aliki.
Yeah, you mentioned audience, and I'm struggling to think what the audience for this was. I mean, was there perhaps brilliant music or wonderful costumes parading up and down to distract you from the fact that the speeches are so repetitive? Because sure, yeah, okay, it's a reasonably accurate picture of how totalitarian government and its yes men work, but who wants to see that as entertainment unless it's got, satire or something else going on? As a performer, I find myself constantly trying to inject irony or character into it, just because I would get so bored. Otherwise, I would be sitting there going, da da ba 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 da da fairness ba 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 ba. I mean, who would watch this?
I mean, it is. Is it just a written exercise, or is it something that is designed for performance? And we've paused at mid-speech at something which could be a mini break of some description, and there might be breaks in the action. I say action as we go on, but because Nebuchadnezzar sort of sets off a slightly different train. He's done it 3 times now, so I mean, it's not exactly different, because of course it's all about the statue, but he's slightly ups the stakes and builds towards this sending a herald, and we're finally getting to the point where the herald might actually be commissioned. They've said, let's look for an actual herald now, because he keeps mentioning that. Shall someone get the herald? Yeah, I'll get a herald. Greg.
Yeah, no, I was literally thinking, how many times have I said the herald? I was thinking, I'm also going back to Aliki's point. At least the lords can talk to themselves. At least Rhubarb, poor Nebby really can't do anything. He can't talk to anybody, when he's not spouting off. I've almost got visions of Nebby with some big blueprint of his monument, and that's all he's doing when he's not talking. He's listening, but he is just kind of possibly adding the odd little floral touch, or adding an extra column or something, or deciding he's going to add another layer. But I just find this, and he doesn't really say anything anyway. He might say the odd occasional thing that might prompt what comes next, but I'm really struggling with this play. I can't call it a play either. Sorry, it's a thing.
No, it is shaped like a play. It's just incredibly tedious. That's I think but it's still a play. I'm sorry. It's in dialogue. It functions that way. It's just, you might want to lock the doors when the audience come in. How often do we want to hear about flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, or dulcimer? I suspect we may hear more about those as we go on, but you never know. There might be a spanner in the works, because I think we're about to meet some no-men. So let's see. Princes, you were saying you should find a herald. Have a little look round the room.
We shall a herald find without delay, who quickly shall in all things you obey. Ho, such a one, anon go back your steed, and here and there see that you run with speed, declaring that this is your king's decree, that all his lieges in humility, with sackbut they or psaltery shall hear, must worship with great reverence and fear the golden image, a most precious thing, in Durust field, set up by the king.
Good heralds are like birds upon a twig, which nimbly still do hop from sprig to sprig, and with their warbling shame the cuckoo notes, by sounding sweetly with their swelled throats. What ye command is most just indeed, and I the same will execute with speed. Ho, 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 ho! Let every man give ear. When kings command, the subjects then should hear. The king ordains that now all nations who do reside in his dominions, when they hear flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, or dulcimer, they in humility fall down and worship to the image yield, which by the king is set in Durust field. Who so doth fail to bow down at the last, shall in a trice be in a furnace cast, a flaming fire, where he shall be anon burnt and consumed both in flesh and bone.
Sith king and peers this image greatly love, the people's part is them for to approve. They are but fools, yea, too malapert, who enterprise king's precepts to subvert. These, who contemn that which they do ordain, deserve the fire, or to be shent in twain. We promise all, when we shall hear the sound of any music, we shall on the ground fall humbly down before this golden badge made by the king, with counsel grave and sage. The people in such things should not contest, but follow that their prince still counteth best.
We here declare unto your majesty that certain Jews condemn what ye decree. He had ordained that when men heard the sound of music, they should fall down to the ground to worship your image in Durust field. But certain Jews refuse to yield that which is due. Our laws do this require, that such be burned even in a flaming fire. These rebels who condemn you, so and so, are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom ye have made high for to rule alone the great affairs that are in Babylon, for nothing that the wisest men that live can say to them will they now worship give.
What is this? What tidings do you bring? Dare any man stand up against the king and say he will my precepts not obey? I now command that ye without delay bring those proud fellows who do so, even Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
At your command, we cheerily to the charge shall go, and shall declare to them at large what is your will. We know these proud, precise, do not regard how they great kings may please. Oh, Shadrach! Ye with your fellows dear ordained are with haste for to compare before the king. See that with haste ye hie, and to him yield obedience by and by. Beware that ye swoln with sullen spite cease to obey that which is just and right. Beware that ye rebellion in your heart brood, or yet works with what may you well subvert. What he commands that do it cheerfully, strike sail and on, come underneath his lee. He who on earth would live must surely learn to be still towed at his royal stern, to follow him and still to stand in awe what he commands. It must stand for a law. If ye refuse, ye tremble, shall all be troubled with wrack and woe. Your dolours shall be doubled. Princes provoked have immortal rage. Their fiery feud no floods at all can swage. The great in might still muster in their train the soldiers fell, who think it still their gain them to obey, to save, or yet to kill. It is their food, their fury to fulfill. If more or less ye them refuse to please, within their heads stand burning coals for eyes. What say ye, Shadrach, and your fellows dear? Are ye not willing quickly to compare before your prince, that as of all his lands the subjects have, so ye may his command gladly receive, and quickly him obey, in what's his will either to do or say? We require now answer us anon. Let us now hear the answer of each one.
We servants are of the great God of heaven, who for our sins us to this land have driven, wherein we captives have been ever since. We have a mind for to obey our prince in lawful things. Let all these surely smart that from his laws would but an inch depart. These who in virtue and God's fear excel, against their prince use not for to rebel. These who are led to walk within this line use not to plot or treasons for to twine against their liege. No force, no shivering fear should to his precepts make them stop their ear. God's word doth teach us princes to obey, and for their well continually to pray.
Proud wicked hearts gainst princes treason coin, do with their foes do oft unjustly join. Who them condemn, you surely spit at heaven, whose spittle shall in their own face be driven. Let kings be wise, in virtue still sincere, as Paul's against all vices most severe. Then godly men them surely will obey, and always will for their protection pray.
We by God's word are well instructed all, that princes, whom on thrones God doth install, are gods whom ye doth set on seats supreme, upon their heads to wear a diadem. What they command, their subjects must obey, if 'gainst the Lord they not their scepters sway. Who them contemn by work, or yet by word, pale fear always such hearty hearts shall guard. Who would but cut the lappet of their coat, deserve to have their head cut from their throat. But by your favor, let us understand what's to be done the king will us command.
Go hear and see. The king will soon declare what's in his mind and what his precepts are. Almighty prince, you know he is alway. They suffer who will not him obey. Great hosts of men he hath brought very low, who flew in dust, in blood did after flow. Nations none his forces could abide, some fled for fear, and some themselves did hide. If ye would not of such great troubles taste, go to the king and him obey in haste. Bestir you, quick, to follow his command, or ye shall feel his thunder-growing hand.
Come hither, ye, my princes and my peers, consider me, who routed hath with fears the nations all, and brought them very low, me to obey, and every knee to bow unto mine image set in Jurus's plain. But some I hear this glorious work disdain, some factious men who whisper so and so, even Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Behold them coming, and hard at their back my Caldeans, who surely are not slack to do my will. When they my watches keep, they never slumber and they never sleep. Ho, Shadrach, I for you looked long ago, and for you, Meshach and Abednego. What's that this I hear of you, a number few? Can this be false, or should I think it true? Do you not serve my gods and worship low the golden image which I do allow stately to stand upon fair Judas's plain? Dare ye be so bold such homage to disdain? Think yourselves of such a spirit divine as that my precepts ye dare countermine? Are ye so bold to whisper in the dark? Yet allowed against me to belch or bark, that it's unlawful always seems to be before my image for us for to bow the knee? If others so did jangle and debate, they'd not reform, but should deform my state. If others were as ye if others were as ye are foolish rude, they should me from the sacred helm exclude. Yet for all this I give you space and time before us here to purge you of this crime. Now quickly tell if that you ready be, when ye hear cornet, flute, harp, psaltery, and sackbut with sweet music of all kind, then for to worship with a humble mind this golden image, a most stately thing, set up by me your liege lord and your king. If this ye do, I say no more but well, my love from you I will never will conceal. But if ye proud, precise, not stand in awe, me to disdain and alls to break my law, not caring for that which I do require, ye in a furnace shall be burnt with fire. But now, at you now, Shadrach, here I will begin. Speak out that I may know what is within your breast, and after I will speak unto that Meshach, ours, and to Abednego. Strive to obey your king in gentle source, before he strike, he rather would you exhort. A king that's good is like to a cunning leech, who than destroy had rather men beseech. Think ye not, Shadrach, that but even when ye see mine image, then ye may even bow the knee? If ye obey, well, there shall be no more. If not, a fire shall surely thee devour. Who is that God who by his winged bands can thee deliver from my mighty hands?
We honour kings, but God we do adore. But as for gold, we neither less nor more acknowledge that of it an image be set up, to which a man should bow the knee. Who worship gold or silver, stones or stocks, do show themselves to be but senseless blocks. The wrath of God, which still is burning hot, shall on them fling a flashing thunder shot. This fire can burn both soul and flesh at once. Your fire can only burn the flesh and bones. Against the sins of such detested livers, God shall his darts shoot from his wrathful quivers. God is a spirit, none saw him or can see. Unto him only we must bow the knee. Him only we will worship and adore. Take this for answer, either less or more. We know all this, and well do understand that ye, a king, have a most mighty hand in all that which doth to this life belong. Upon the earth the sons of men among, your fortune sharp, your hands of forces full, with keenest edge can cut and cleave the skull. Your furnace hot within a little time may burn the flesh and turn the bones to lime. But so it is that God, who is above, can quickly from us dangers all remove. In heavens above a mighty Lord we have, who can as well even from the furnace save. This well I know, I not in darkness grope. My feet are feathered with the wings of hope. He who this faith within his heart not feels, let him in fear betake him to his heels. For to escape by sea or yet by land, for to avoid the fury of thine hand, we understand that God can, if he will, in fire or water keep us safely still. Yea, more I say, that thou mayest understand, O King our God will surely from thine hand deliver us. Yet though he not preserve us from the fire, thy gods we will not serve.
Base, naughty stranger, comest thou hither thus in foolish words to prate and preach to us? Within thy skull thy brain in flames most hot shall boil and bubble like a seething pot. So shall by thine example learn to ban their zeal and ours their fury stern. Such fellows proud who seem to be precise, their fancies are only set to please. Thy bloody tapes all raiding to and fro deserves to be cut and out and burnt also, or to be hanged upon a gallows high, meat for the ravens whose too porking cry. This thou deserves. But fiercest fire for torture with quick dispatch shall make thy sorrows shorter. Ye princes who mine honours still regard, judge what this fellow should have for reward. Mine image he most proudly doth contemn. None of you all but ye will him condemn.
Men who are base cannot well understand what is required when great kings do command. They, stout in rage, themselves they only please, who against the laws would seem to be precise. Well-ruled kingdoms, should such men out-spew, none prouder than a presumptuous Jew. Accursed crew, poor rascals, all in clout, to fill your kingdom with their needless doubts. If you permit things to go so and so, your throne and on will stagger to and fro. Let them who will not do what you require, in furnace hot, be scorched with a fire.
Ambitious spirits, the tinderbox of war, take pleasure still in something for to jar, that men may think that men of such a kind are more than others of a heavenly mind. Thus we who are in dignity and place oft by such means do suffer great disgrace. What wonder, sith such do not stand in awe to scorn their prince and proudly break his law? Who in his heart could this but once suppose, that such a fellow should lift up his nose to face a prince, and to lift up his brow with lofty looks, and his fancies to allow? He thinks all others of a waxen mind, fit for each seal, and whirled with every wind, but he himself mighty rock to be, which scorns the surges of the raging sea. Away with such, in fashion so precise, who have no care their prince at all to please. See how this fellow doth himself behave, who in distress did erst remain a slave. See how he stands in his right rust of pride, as who but he who can such things abide? Think'st thou, O man, this but a little thing for to conspire against the Chaldean king? Let them who will not do what ye require in furnace hot be scorched with a fire.
Stout captains hardly can such fellows hear, and not their heads with bloody shames besmear, or rather gore, that others well may learn to princes great their duties to discern. If this companion could his will dispatch, our prince should soon be an unsceptred wretch. His subjects should him hurry up and down, until they him at the last uncrown. He who before was but a galley slave, disdains now master, or yet match to have. Kings' thrones with ladders he would scale and take. He soldier like the way bears on his back, to climb with speed on his ambition's wall. But soon or since great pride doth catch a fall. See how he stands in all this great alarm. He feareth not, because he feels no harm. Let them who will not do what ye require, in furnace hot be scorched with a fire.
To kings do you honour great, God not gives, deserves like slaves the fetters and the gyves. Who can abide that with an insulting rust vile rascals should so against their princes just? Behold a prince whom princes do attend, who Chaldean lands commands from end to end, and many mo. And yet this fellow proud against this prince dare thus so highly crowd. Base fellows of a naughty rascal race do not concede the majesty and place that's due to kings, whom all should greatly fear, as these who are indeed the godlings here. What's near the gods? These who against them rude in dumbest thoughts rebel should lose their blood. Who against his prince dare only speak a word, should in his heart have sheathed justice sword. Let them who will not do what ye require in furnace hot be scorched with a fire.
Kings troubled are with vain and needless motions. Most idle brains make often great commotions. By naughty things they trouble state and crown. They that thereby may purchase great renown, and be esteemed as if they were some gods, whereas indeed they merit sharpest rods. By proud conceit such trouble all the state, and fill the land with strife and great debate. The Caldean lands did never such men breed, who for good wheat give dizzy darnel seed. The nations great by thy victorious troop are forced unto standards low to stoop. What are these fellows with ambitious rage? Cause bind them fast and cast them in a cage. Bind up their mouths full of such surly speech. Let them now know how far your power doth reach. If they thus toss your kingdom for their pleasure, we treasurers will have an empty treasure. Let them who will not do what ye require in furnace hot be scorched with a fire.
Ye how vain fellows, as with furious waves would overwhelm great men as naughty slaves by their conceits. If all things be not so, even as they think, all upside down must go. Mild melancholious in a drowsy fit, devising follies they in chambers sit. They fertile are devices for to brood, which ever still tend unto strife and blood. If such obtain their foolish heart's desire, they care not all be spoiled with sword and fire. What recks it them that with a scarlet robe of blood men be all clothed and sigh and sob? If they be safe with dread and danger free, they care not for the greatest prodigy that can befall. The choicest way to war is that which makes the king with subjects jar. How dare such men, when they the king's decree from heralds hear, thus disobedient be? Let them who will not do what ye require in furnace hot be scorched with a fire.
So I think we can safely say that the consensus around the room is for burning. Fiery furnace is a go-go. It suddenly picked up a bit when someone said no, and King Nebuchadnezzar just goes, "What? What?" And we had this sort of this a bit of back and forth. We had a bit of journeying. Herald goes out, the people respond, and then there's rumours. Oh no, there's some people. They're not doing the bowing down thing. They're not doing the bowing. We've played the tune, the bowie down tune. I have this image that the statue's actually got a giant key in the back, and you have to wind it up, and then it plays a tune, and everyone has to come in. But yeah, and so it's deathy time, isn't it? For the people who said no, and all the other people, or almost all the other people. We are blessed that some of the group from the first half of the play didn't respond to the king on the Burney front. It looks like a slightly smaller council, so we had slightly fewer speeches, and that was nice. There's a lot of material where there doesn't need to be. I mean, this could be a much shorter play, and just be, yeah. Could get to the burniness faster. Always like to get to the burning, but it did sort of pick up a bit. It's like there was just going, oh, there's a bit more bounce here, bit more bounce. Thoughts in the room, Lynn?
I think it's worth noticing that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego make a point of saying, we recognize earthly authority. We believe that God put you on your throne, and that your orders are to be obeyed unless they go against God's word. We all say a version of that we're not just sort of rebels by nature, but we do put our obedience to God above obedience to earthly kings. They're very explicit about that.
Any other thoughts before we go into the final section, which we'll rattle through, I'm sure, with some alacrity, because I'm sure King Nebuchadnezzar will be merciful and reasonable from this point onwards. Greg, what's his response to everyone saying, burn them?
Sorry, I just want to burst into song there. Pride in the heart, most fearful workings has it. Sorry. Pride in the heart most fearful workings has, it makes men soar aloft and leave the path of duties, all which to a prince are due. In Chaldean of such there be not a few. Behold how Shadrach in his fancy wise me and mine image basely doth despise. This ye have heard and also have clearly seen. He in his carriage vain and proud hath been. Though I be prince, he me doth not regard. Let him stand by till he get his reward. It is your mind that after my desire in furnace hot he be consumed with fire. Ho, Meshach even, come it may be that now ye your prince to serve, then he more willing be. Be not like Shadrach, who is yet set for strife. Neither obey if you would save your life. An image fair on Judas's field doth stand. Bow it before, I only this demand. If thou obey, well there it shall be no more. If not, a fire shall surely thee devour. Who is that God who by his winged bands can thee preserve from my most mighty hands?
I willing shall you serve in everything. Who fears the Lord will honour also the King, whom God to sit on highest throne doth choose. Him to obey none should at all refuse, so that he God's will doth understand, and precepts give, which God also doth command. But if the prince in wickedness be bold, though clothed with stuffed with fine beaten gold, and rough with rubies, this must be our care, to serve the Lord, whose servants still we are. If in the way to heavens we would not err, we still the Lord must unto the men prefer in everything. Yea, whether less or more, none but bad fools do gold for God adore. Gold is but earth, nothing it has divine, though by the artist it be checkered fine. Vain carnal men may with their simple wit, with tools a lump into an image fit. But what is there, yet either less or more, that men should stoop such dead things to adore? Why should a man even any comfort seek from golden mouths which have no tongue to speak? Who can imagine comfort but to find from that which is both deaf and dumb and blind? He not deserves a comfort for to have, who unto dread things makes himself a slave. No, now, know, O King, thy gods we will not serve. We trust in God, who can us well preserve. And though he should not, yet most surely we unto thine image will not bow the knee.
Just base naughty slaves, I shall a judgment ample bring on you soon to make you an example to all my subjects. Surely for your crime your flesh and bone shall all be burnt to lime. Because that ye contemners are of princes, ye suffer shall the fire with all your senses. I mind such doings timorously to snip, lest that my laws seem like a spider's web. Vain, foolish men, with their most curious wits, do stint their studies as their fury fits. Such willingly will seem to suffer pain, to vent the follies of their idle brain, to get on earth a glorious gilded name, that so they may be counted men of fame. But thee shall teach in another path, shall feel in fire, which for thy to walk when but I thee shall teach in another path to walk when thou the fury of my wrath shall feel in fire, which for thy faults anon shall scorch thy flesh and also burn thy bone. Ye princes in mine honour still regard, judge what this fellow should have for a reward. Mine image he most proudly doth contemn, none of you, all but ye will him condemn. Though I your liege lord none at all do fear, yet but what's your mind I now desire to hear.
No banks at all your fame's great sea can bound. Your temples are with laurels richly crowned, with majesty you dwell in stately towers. The highest bright before you humbly cowers. Except these villains, faggots for your fire, whose hearts are damped and dimmed with proud desire for to be something in some man's account, maugre your might. But you will soon surmount their foolish pride. These naughty, stubborn fools, at furnace mouth, will soon lay down the tools of all their pride. Though they be stout in word, the sight of fire with fear their hearts shall gird. Then they anon shall soon forget to reason, when they shall feel what hath deserved their treason. These fools not know the heavenly milken way, wherein shall shine most brightly night and day all those who humbly still do set their heart from laws of kings a jot not to depart. But ye, sir, who have such strong regiments, at all times ready, bound about your tents, ye who do shine adorned with gold and gems, purple clothed and crowned with diadems, your kingdom's maugre times most wasteful rages hath lasted still so many years and ages. You need not fear a traitor's treacherous drift, though foolishly he for a space uplift himself against his prince for to rebel. How easy is it such rascals to expel, to hang, to head, or if ye desire, them quickly to burn with scorching flaming fire. Base naughty spirits, not know what well becomes great princes, who do sit in glorious rooms with sword in hand, and who do scepters sway, with power to force all rebels to obey. If ye such things away let slip or slide, unbridledly with such a furious tide, you shall at last find that your majesty by others alls may soon contemned be. Who lusks in downs and looks not well abroad, to curb in time corruption with a rod, it may spring up from twig unto a tree, great rivers from small beginnings be. This we not speak for lucre, but for love. Let fiery flames such rebels soon remove.
The spirits of men are flitting whiles and floating whiles on their fancies they are duly doting. It seems to them that they see things most clear, and yet right far debarred from their career, not knowing what to princes great belongs, when they in pride provoke daily wrongs. This senseless fellow with his company fears not to belch against your majesty, whose glory, great like to a shining star, makes eyes to dazzle, whether near or far. Pride makes him snort on pillows of security, and also sport, as though ye for impurity not worthy were to sit upon a throne, but that from thence he should be hurled anon. Who have the soundest and the sharpest eye, what I now say, they may it clearly see, but tarry till the flame shall singe his hair and scorch his flesh, till all his flesh be bare, then shall he howl, or give some heavy sob, that he his prince of glory did rob. Then shall he know that ye did foully slide, when flames shall scorch his back, his breast, his side within the furnace. Fire most fierce and fell shall loudly make him for to yawn and yell. Spare not the coals, it only is the best. Nothing but fire is for so proud a crest. If these ye spare, who darnel are and tares, ye shall anon be filled with costly cares. Your cords of strength your subjects shall untwine. One shall rebel, another shall repine. Make ye your subjects tremble, all for all. Let every wink still serve them for a law. Make all men fear so, that no bush or brake may hide the man who dare but undertake to wink amiss against what ye command. Make so men all your power to understand. If ye permit rebellion and such props to go, anon shall fall the airy tops of all your towers. If fellows thus combine, they'll break the mastic of all love divine and human else. And so, as with a thunder, the bands of duties will all break asunder. When once a people move it is with rage, with new conceits, then hardly shall ye swage their furious rage by any proclamation. So are men's spirits still set for innovation. What we say now, it is to you, for love, let fiery flames all these rebels remove.
If ye of grace and goodness were not full, ye could not suffer so this churlish gull, whose fury no respect at all can bound, to honour such that have their temples crowned with laurels green. Such fellows now alone condemn your crown, your sceptre, and your throne. Your majesty must henceforth take good heed, such rebels vain for to repress with speed, lest afterward maugre your might or will, they all your lands with high rebellion fill. We captains bold will not now spare our blood, you to maintain, and to procure your good with stately trophies. We will your state will feed, and will maintain your crowns upon your heed. When ye are wronged, our sword, like cheerful balm, shall cure your wounds. We with victorious palms will you decor. We shall make mountains stoop, and all hills tremble with high horn top. We at your service shall make no delay. Only command, and we shall cause obey. These fellows proud no strength have but in word, but we are men for targets, spears, and swords. When feeble hearts perceive us armed come, a shivering fear doth then our soul benumb, and freeze their senses or dissolve them all from vain conceits, till at the last they fall down at the feet of those who do command, both great and small, that are in all the land. These painted tombs who seem their God to love, and you to scorn, who can them well approve? Great danger is when, as a sparkle small, but by mischance doth into powder fall, then all's afire. The flame it by degrees from place to place in a combustion flees. As it goes on, the greater is its force. So such conceits the subjects will divorce from king and laws, except that speedily by strictest statutes still such curved be to be obeyed. Sir, be ye constant still, for your great worth shall not want our good will. Among best wits ye have a worthy place. All you respect, fools only would disgrace your royal precepts. If ye grant permission, we shall then cause abandon their rebellion. We, captains stout, shall by a mighty hand anon achieve whatever ye shall command. Away with them! Let pitchy clouds of smoke them in a furnace altogether choke. It pleasure is fair banners to display, to go to war, to fight in battle ray, 'gainst men of worth, who have both hearts and hands. But what? All these who come from other lands are captives base, a shame and a disgrace, that were a prince they should at all have place. These captive slaves, to speak it in a word, not worthy are to perish by our sword. We would think shame in flesh of rascals vile, our falchions bright, so basely to defile. Such in a fiery furnace cast anon, that all may learn to stoop before your throne.
Brains of men are filled with tales and toys. A curious head the country all annoys, by foolish men who take delight to jar. We judges with our prince still troubled are. These who do flaunt in silver, silk, and gold, to scorn their prince, dare never be so bold as rascals vile, who ready are anon to vilify kings sitting on their throne. None, as they think, but they the truth can find, while as indeed such are but beetle blind. By, that we who sit on judgment seats should spend our time once for to speak of threats against villains vile, who boldly dare gain stand, the prince's laws obeyed by all the land. Such in a fiery furnace cast anon, that all may learn to stoop before your throne.
Vain fellows, pensive, still do study naught but how to accomplish their proud foolish thought, and tremble all with their opinion vain, as though men might the law of kings disdain. Such naughty fellows by a needless jar prepare the way into a bloody war. For when some few break over the list of laws, their ill example soon doth others draw, against their liege lord proudly to rebel, whereby the state and all they quickly quell. So we who happy and most hopeful were to gather treasures are deceived far. So we at last get even this for a curse. For treasures great, we have an empty purse. Oh, happy they who stand as sentinel at all times ready for the common well. O happy they who, being put on trial, unto their princes all are still found loyal, and spare not for the public toil to take, that they the state may all to flourish make. When this doth lake, when men's of quirks are full, by fraud and guile, the simple sort do gull, with others vain, in no way can forbear, like foolish buffoons, for to flirt and jeer and scorn the weak with most delightful notes. These men become brute, like vile hogs or goats. But as for these, who should without delay obey their prince, and yet go still away with proud contempt and lofty jingling, as though their knowledge were no little beamling, but even a sun with brightness by and by for to enlighten all the upper sky, and here and there most glorious all to glance, through all the globe to make an influence. By such a pride they like the grunting hog, do feed on filth, or like the loathsome frog, lie in the mires, and there still croaking they do bore their neighbors both by night and day. When all's in peace, then all like golden spangles most limbly dance, or like fruit that dangles. But contentions still do bring a curse. All treasurers in wars have empty purse. This is our fear. I think this fellow's bread hath not been wheat, but dizzy darnel seed. Thinks he in Babel safely for to dwell, and proudly thus against the king rebel? O king, ye have a most vicious troop, which able is to cause such fellows stoop. Such in a fiery furnace cast anon, that all may learn to bow before your throne.
Who to obey their princes will not join, may seem fine gold, yet are but copper coin. Who to his prince is far or near a foe, most cursed he is, and should be called so. When fell discord comes from her loathsome cage, she blows her poison with ambitious rage from hand to hand. Nothing she doth require, but that the land blaze like a ball of fire. If subjects seek for to shake off the yoke, then sure the state upon some noisome rock may soon make shipwreck. Oh, then what can stay the state and all for to be made a prey? Men swell with rage and prank with proud despite, not awe, not law, not faith they wreak, nor right. Then altogether they in cruel thirst shall swill their fill of blood until they burst. So through the land one stirred against another shall go to swords and butcher each his brother, nothing but blood and burning. Men shall see, if from the stern ye take authority. The surges must the ship soon overwhelm, if from the pilot ye bereave the helm. If men go on and wicked deeds dispatch until their king be an unsceptered wretch, then cities sacked and wealthy subjects pilled, and women ravished, and much men are killed. So when at last these duties become failing, nothing is heard but mourning and bewailing.
And the rest of the play is missing, but we can take it reasonably firmly that they get thrown into the fiery furnace, but because of the endeavours of magical powers of God, they are fine and not hurt by the fiery furnace, and so they're released, and Nebuchadnezzar realises that God is all powerful, and they all live happily ever after. So yeah, there's a lot of words there. I mean, the thing is, some of I quite like bits of it. I quite like some of the speeches. I think there's some nice stuff in there. It's just there's just so much. But that's, again, I keep saying this. This is not a problem. You can cut that down. I mean, you're going to have to cut it quite a lot. But I think there's actually a nice 20-minute play here that functions perfectly well. If you include the missing bit at the end, it's probably about 90 minutes long, I would have thought, as a play, maybe slightly longer. But I think you could take your favourite speeches that do basically the same job. You could take some of the repetitious stuff and actually run it after each other, so the councillors basically keep doing the sort of little recitative bit, sort of just going on, and that would work really nicely. Yeah, you've got us. There is something there. There's just also an awful lot of other stuff there as well. Other thoughts about this this latter end of the text. There's an awful. They're really keen on the burning, aren't they? You know, I do feel that some of these are not just yes men. They're really keen on the whole Nebuchadnezzar project, aren't they? You know, they're actually really up for it. And I mean, the captains, absolutely, yeah. Oh, you know, we haven't done enough killing for a while, so some burning that'll keep us busy. Thoughts? Any thoughts? Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. I'll stop. I will learn. Sorry, Aliki.
There's an awful lot of, if anybody bucks authority, there will be terrible disaster. At the tiniest whiff of rebellion, you have to stomp it out, or else disaster, which, you know, is interesting. Lynn was pointing out the Civil War, but, you know, presumably we're on the side of the God people here, not on the side of the idol people. I don't know. Personally, I prefer idols, but that's just me.
Yes, I mean, this is the thing. We're not supposed to be in favour of the burning or the kneeling down to idol. That's not what the play is trying to make us do. But hey, maybe we're all on the side of Lynn and Alan.
Yeah, I was noticing the same thing, that there's this every speech in each sort of movement has the same theme. Oh, you're so amazing. Yes, if they disobey you, let them be burnt. And then, oh yeah, you can't let anybody step out of line. That's the thin end of the wedge. And you know, that's the hole in the dike. You let anybody step out of line, and that undermines the whole system of authority, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket over and over again.
I think it'd make a good oratorio. That's my thinking here. Is that actually, you know, if the whole thing is actually a text for music, and the whole thing is sung, then that could be really interesting. And also, let's be clear: this fiery furnace had better be good.
It better be hot.
It's got to be a good fight, because, you know, we've got a lot of build up for this fiery furnace, and if it's rubbish, then we're going to be quite disappointed.
It has to be a great fiery furnace to kill people. I mean, if you like shut people in a room with fire, they're going to suffocate in any case. So yeah, I mean, you know, they're going to die. But yeah, you know, my sort of wrapping it up thought is that my guess is this is agitprop theater. For one thing, it's not very good. What's more important here is the agenda than the aesthetics. So we really want to hammer home that Nebuchadnezzar has blinders on, that he doesn't realize that God is real, and that he's listening to yes men. He's a bad king, and the poor Jews, and the kind of choruses note repeatedly that they're not even rich. They're like, look at these guys, they're not even rich. They're wearing wool garments, and they're poor guys. They're doing this just for notoriety. But they're right, of course, that worshiping idols is against the cosmic order of things. So I just think that whoever wrote this has a political agenda and is critiquing the current administration for being too high-handed and not recognizing that kings need to listen to more than one voice, and that the rich don't always have the right answers. Sometimes ordinary people have the right answers, and and you know, I think it's partly because the Protestant movement was very interested in the Hebrew Bible. Many Protestant sects were actually quite favorably disposed towards the Jews, and they were allowed back into England officially during the interregnum. I think.
Yes, yes. Cromwell et al. Acknowledged that they were here in part, and
the use of Abraham and his descendants as heroes, as models, was kind of a Protestant thing. So I think this is some kind of a Puritan pushback against the King Charles administration.
There's been a lot of personal rule going on over this the various decades,
right,
on and off,
without even consulting Parliament.
So Parliament hasn't been called on and off for quite a while in places, depending on, say, where this play precisely sits. And even James could be somewhat high-handed as well. So even if it is a little earlier, then there's still. There's still a ridiculously flamboyant monarchy doing ridiculous displays that are costing the earth. Alan?
I must admit, I'm almost getting the feeling that quite a lot of what we've actually got in there, given that we're missing the final section, which is going to be the moral point. But what we've had so far is an awful lot of it is peasants, know your place, do what you're bloody told.
Mm-hmm.
So it could almost be from a royalist perspective.
Well, no, because the royals are obviously wrong. This is the point. The play is not pushing that the royals are right. These are all of our betters. They're all in tow to this person at the top, and they're all pretty much everyone in this play is wrong. As far as the play is concerned, and that's actually quite interesting. It's quite rare to have quite this many people who are clearly in error.
How unlike the state of current politics on both sides of the pond.
Aliki, were you waving?
So glad we're past that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we're really missing here, is that the intended audience knew the moral of the story. They know that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are right, and that's important, I think.
And they know where
it's actually a fairly well-known, oft repeated Hebrew tale. So I mean, like churches in the United States anyway still do like little, we're going to do a Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego play for this particular Sunday. So it's
I think
well
that
known.
One really hasn't lasted into the modern Anglican.
Maybe it's a U.S. evangelical thing. Just a few years ago, my sister, who attends an evangelical church, generated a script for like a basically kind of the Sunday school class put on a Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego play for the congregation. So.
It's like earlier with the mystery plays when we had the Balaam and Balak play, and sort of going, well, that's not a story that many people are particularly familiar with, and yet it is a story that people at the time are familiar with because they keep referencing it. That story from the Bible. Alan?
I mean, I certainly remember doing the fiery furnace biblical story in a Baptist Sunday school when I would have been about 9 or 10, something like that. And it was well taught, it was well put over, which is why an awful lot of it stuck in the mind. And I think that probably if you went for the authorized version, King James Bible version, the whole thing is 1,000 words probably.
I don't know.
This is tenfold that length.
That's really short story.
In the American tradition, there are also a couple of spirituals. I was looking them up. I posted one in the chat, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And there's also one called 3 Hebrew Boys in the Fiery Furnace, which, these were reasonably well known.
So, any additional final thoughts to throw in? I'm not going to go round in a formal way, but anyone got anything they want to throw in? I think we've kicked the tires on this a reasonable amount, but if you've got Lynn,
what this version of that story does to make it so noticeably long is it's the padding is all yes men, and I don't remember that being a really outstanding feature of the biblical story. Nebuchadnezzar makes this edict. 3 Jewish men disobey. They try to burn them. Doesn't work. The king's like, that's interesting. But like on and on, where different groups in the aristocracy say, "Oh yeah, you're right about everything. You're right. That's what the play adds. So that's just something to notice.
Yeah. Any more for any more?
I really like your idea of staging it as an oratorio. That's my thought. I think there's a really kind of musical potential there.
And I'd say I think you could do a cut down version that would get to the nub of it all, the nub of Nebuchadnezzar, and get us out without, I think, losing the will to live. I think there is a problem that, you know, it's very schematic and you can see what the structure is, and once you've gone round the royal council once, and then Nebuchadnezzar makes another speech, and you go, oh dear, and it's not going to end well, is it? Okay, well, that's it for Nebuchadnezzar. I suspect we won't be coming back to it anytime soon, but we may do. It's an incomplete text. Maybe it just needs a little bit of love. But all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. We roar, we rage like boars and bears with paws.